Welcome to the Foundations of Fitness podcast, where we can help you build foundations to a stronger and healthier you.
Hello everyone, and first of all, thank you for tuning in to the show. On today's show, we have Biodun Ogunyemi. Biodun Ogunyemi is a mindset coach who has great knowledge into mindset and how it can affect you in your day-to-day goals, your training goals, and also in your career. I took a lot from this podcast, and I hope you can too. Sit back and listen, and hopefully you can take something away from it. Biodun, how you doing? Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on the show. Delighted to be here.
No problem at all. So, Biodun, every time I spend a wee bit of time with you, I always walk away and feel a wee bit motivated and encouraged. So I thought you'd be a great person to have on the show and one of our first guests. So tell me a wee bit about yourself, what you do and how you found yourself doing it.
Yeah, of course. My journey probably began in the sort of personal development field probably about over 20 years ago. I always had an interest in how the mind worked and really how you can use the mind to enhance performance and help people get the results they want. People that set goals, how can you achieve your goals using the right mindset and the correct methods. So when I was younger, I had a real interest in how the mind worked and hypnosis and personal development, and I started going on various courses back then, and that led me on this journey to today. What I do is I help people get the best out of themselves. I help people enhance their performance, whether that's sports people, whether that's entrepreneurs, whether that's company directors. It's basically helping people to get into that zone where they can get the best out of their performance.
Yep, love that, Biodun, love that. So taking me for instance, how would I get started? What would you recommend for goal setting?
In terms of goal setting, the first thing that we need to consider is a lot of people are used to setting goals consciously. And what I mean by consciously, when we talk about the conscious mind, which is the logical part of your mind, we use the metaphor of the unconscious mind, which is the part that runs your emotions, your breathing, the blood flow through your body. When you think about these two concepts in that metaphor, if you set goals, like every year, usually the time that people set goals is usually once a year in January. People sit down and say, I want to make this year a lot better than last year, and they decide to set these goals. Now, one of the problems with that is, first of all, they list these goals as short-term, medium-term, and long-term, and they're actually using a lot of conscious thinking, which is fine. But what you need to do after that is you need to filter down to analyze each of these goals you've written down, whether that's in terms of health, wealth, family, it could be material, could be whatever's important to you.
Yes.
And then really decide which of these goals do you actually have any emotional attachment to.
Yeah. I really like what you've said there.
Yeah.
It means something to you.
Emotional attachment, then it's really difficult to get yourself started. And what most people do is they set the goals in January, they try and get off to a good start, and by beginning of February, or certainly middle of February, they've forgotten most of those goals anyway, and they never look at them again.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed that a lot with my profession, obviously in the gym. A lot of people, the January rush, and people have forgot about their goals before they've even out of January. They're trying too much too soon, and they're basically focusing on that picture, and if they don't get it within the first 2-3 weeks, then they start to kind of fall away from it a wee bit. So which way would you kind of recommend people set their goals? Shorter term, small progresses?
Yes, exactly. The first thing to realise is if you want to go from A to Z, then you've got a number of steps in between. Now, there could be 3 steps, it could be 5 steps, it could be 6 steps in between. Now, when you set your initial goal, that goal, a lot of people, when they start on that journey, whether it's weight loss, whether they want to get a lot fitter, in order to set that goal, they have to be comparing themselves to other people.
Yeah. Now,
the challenge with that is a lot of the time people say, right, okay, I want to start on this journey and I want to lose 3 stone, and I've got, I want to do it in, say, 2 months.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is you need to break it down even get the first 10 pounds off of that weight loss. And that'll keep you motivated. When you start to see little results, that'll motivate you to keep on going until you get close to your goal, until you get closer and closer to your goal. Most people set the goal too large and they expect to achieve it too quickly. And that's why they lose a lot of motivation. That could be for weight loss. It could be in terms of fitness, in terms of they want to change their body shape.
Yeah.
Because what we need to realize is one of the most important things is consistency, taking small steps in the right direction and being consistent.
I would definitely agree with you there. Consistency, a big thing, which brings me on to my next topics. Habits and routines. What kind of habits and routines? Obviously, I notice a lot of people, they don't make it part of their lifestyle and part of their routine. They're going for the short fix and they're hoping that it sorts it out instead of making it part of your lifestyle. What kind of habits and routines would you recommend to someone who was looking to kind of start off?
Well, the first thing that I would say is having mental clarity in terms of your mindset. You need to really have that mental clarity. And what I mean by that is to break it down and give an example. Sorry?
No, sorry, Bjorn. I think we broke up there a little bit. Sorry, can you just carry on?
Yeah. I was just saying that every single day people wake up, they have a shower, they cleanse their body. How often do people actually cleanse their mind? How often do you have that calm mind? How often do you get your mind into the right type of mindset that's going to give you the results? And that's really, really important. It's really important to have that mindset that's going to get you results. In other words, when you look at the glass, do you see the glass as half empty, or do you see the glass as half full?
Yeah, looking at the positives of things.
Yeah, it's really important. And by saying that, I don't even just mean positive thinking, because anybody can think. Most people that go around saying, I think positively about everything. The problem is that they're forcing themselves to think positive. So we've got to be realistic.
Yeah.
But also we have to have that clarity of mind, and it's that integration between your mind and body. When you get that right, then what tends to happen is you tend to get better results. It's like athletes that are. A lot of athletes or a lot of coaches and performers, they sort of live in that zone state. So a lot of the time they're in flow, and when you're in flow, you're using very, very little conscious effort. There's very, very little activity in the mind. You don't have that chatter in the mind going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely notice now with a lot of my clients, we use the algorithm of SMART goals. Have you heard of it?
Yes, Mm-hmm.
SMART goals. I think SMART goals is really, really good, and for the listeners here, SMART goals is a great way, and if you don't know it, it's definitely brilliant to look up before you set any goals, to realise where it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and the time it will take you. I think that's a great way, and I've found it to work really, really well with others. So what kind of ways, bringing on to the next topic, would you judge your progress, Bjorn? And say you had a certain goal, how would you judge whether you're progressing or not?
Well, one of the things that I'd said earlier on is to break it down into smaller steps.
Yeah.
So it's just looking at your progress and realising that you might not be able to go from A to Z in one step. So there might be a number of steps in between, and just break down your progress. So, for example, if somebody wants to lose weight, then the first 10 pounds could give them the results. The first drop in size in terms of a dress size or shirt size might actually just get them motivated to go on to the next step, and to realise that it doesn't really matter who you are. There's going to be times that during your training, during your weight loss, or during your goals, that you're going to fall off track. Mm-hmm. And it's realising that all you need to do is get back on track. As Jordan says, if you use something like SMART goals, just realise that, specific, measurable, all the things that are relevant there. And the biggest thing that people should pay attention to is the part at the end, which is time, because that time element can be extended.
Yeah, of course it can. That's life. People fall off the bandwagon, families, occasions come up where you maybe can't be making the gym or making time to go for that run. And I think that's a great thing that you've just said there.
Yeah. When a lot of the time, people come along and they want to achieve a big goal, or it's certainly a big goal to them. All goals might be big to certain individuals, and it could be somebody that wants to lose weight or somebody that wants to get fit. And their expectation, you need to first of all set the expectation. What do you expect to achieve, and in what time scale? And realize if you get small results, that's going to really push you to get the bigger results. And just realize, a lot of the time I say to people, they say I want to lose 3 stone or 4 stone, and they say, well, I say, how what's your time scale for this?
Yeah.
And they'll say, I'd like to do it in say 2 months. And I'll say to them, okay, just like you mentioned SMART goals, I'll say, is that realistic?
Yeah.
And if they say yes, I'll say, okay, how long did it take you to put the weight on?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So it's just getting people to think outside the box, to say, let me just, it's like a reality check.
Yeah.
So that they can really go in within themselves and get the answers themselves, to realize that, if I'm going to really take this seriously, then, I need to start and set the progress and begin with the end in mind, but at the same time realize that it's okay to fall off track.
Yeah, no, I really like that, Biodun, and I really
even with training, a lot of the training you do, and I'm sure you see with a lot of clients, it's happened to myself numerous occasions. Sometimes you've got a goal and everything's progressing really well, but there's certain things that are unavoidable, like injuries, for example. Injuries could take you out for a month. So then you need to realize, okay, let me get back on track, and that's fine.
Yeah. Another thing, taking me on to our next topic, procrastination, people doubting themselves. That's a big thing I see with a lot of people, and I think that's a great one to ask you for with your mindset background. People really putting themselves down and doubting themselves. I've a few people come into the gym and they look at you like, is that achievable? They don't believe in themselves. What would you say to someone who possibly doubted themselves or put themselves down? How would you use your mindset background to help them with that?
Yeah, a lot of the time the unfortunate situation with that is often we're playing the same record over and over and over again in our head, and we start to believe that voice. So when that voice creeps in and starts to incite doubt, then we sometimes we listen to it and say, well, maybe I just can't do that. And again, one of the beautiful things about that is really to think back to a time that most people in their life, there's been times where they've been confident at doing something, or they've been able to do something really, really well. And if you think back to that time, for example, it could be back when they were at school in the sports day or something like that, anything at all, any example, but that particular time where they were feeling really, really confident, if they think about that time and think about the feeling in their body in terms of their emotions and how they felt, they can use that to realize, you know what, I can just take that feeling, the same confident feeling, and apply it to anything in my life. Because really, that doubt is really listening to that voice in our head, and often we get caught out with that. And that's where processes that, in terms of calming your mind, using, people might not have heard of mindfulness. Mindfulness is your ability to remain completely aware of the present. Now, using processes like that can really help to get rid of that doubt, because that's it's a lot of that comes from fear, and a lot of that comes from comparing yourself to other people. Now, the problem
definitely with social media now, sorry to break you up there, Biodun, but social media now plays a huge part on how people are looking at themselves. They're comparing their lives to certain people, they're comparing their physiques to certain people. What kind of ways would you get around that?
Well, it's the realization that if you're looking at somebody and you're thinking, right, okay, I want to, for example, in some sort of sport, I want to perform just like that individual. It's then thinking to yourself, okay, that particular person that you're talking about, how often do they train? How many times a week do they commit themselves? Are they doing this for a living? So it's the expectation of, if you want to be a professional at something, or if you want to be really, really good at something, then you need to be able to commit the time and the mental energy to that, and the consistency. But if you're comparing yourself to somebody that's a professional athlete, and you're not a professional athlete, then, it's unlikely you're going to get the same results unless you become a professional athlete.
Yeah, no, definitely, I get that there. You've got to put in the work to get there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sitting on the couch certainly isn't going to get you there without putting in the work. So we spoke about mindfulness, and I'm really, really intrigued in this because I've spoke to you a few times in the gym, and I think that's a big, big way. Can you go a wee bit more in depth with being mindfulness and how people could probably get started with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way you can get started with that is just to think, right, how can I put myself into a state where, whether you do this as a closed eye process or an open eye process, it's just sitting and being at one with yourself in the present. Now, in order to do that, you want to try and eliminate thinking about anything in the past or thinking about anything in the future. And to remember that when people start to practice this, it's exactly as I say, you are practicing. If you get a new client, for example, Jordan, and the person's never been in the gym in their life, or they've spent very little time in the gym, then you can't expect to put them on a bench and say, okay, I want you to bench press, 40 kg. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So to realize that they need to build that strength, and that's what we need to do with our mind, is we need to find a way to calm the mind. A lot of people think, relaxing is just about going home at night, lying on the couch watching TV, and they're relaxing. But if your mind is ticking over and over and over, and you're overthinking, you're still thinking about your what you've been doing that day, then in fact you don't have that integration and you're not relaxed. So in order to do that, it might be just as simple as, closing your eyes and just imagine that you begin to focus on your breath to the exclusion of everything else. Every time a thought comes into your mind, just pull your awareness back to the breath. So it's like you're using the breath as the focus of your attention. And at first you'll find a lot of thoughts will be coming. You'll get a lot of thoughts, but eventually, the more you do this, your thoughts will start to tail off, and you start to feel that you're much more aware of what's going on within your body. You're much more aware of the present state, and you're not really drifting. Your thoughts aren't really drifting.
Yeah.
That's a great way to practice it. It's a really simple process. Imagine we went to the motorway, for example, one of the motorways, say the M8 right now, and it was a busy time. If I asked somebody to try and cross over that road, the likelihood of getting across is pretty much next to none. But that's what our thoughts are like. We're thinking of so many things at the same time. We're trying to process so much information. But then if we go back at midnight, you'll probably get across. So how do we calm our thoughts down so we can pay attention to the thoughts we want to pay attention to, which means we have more control over our thoughts. If we have more control over our thoughts, we have more control over how we feel, which impacts our state, which impacts our behaviour. And everything's about the thinking, feeling state, every single thing.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I'm currently reading a book just now, Psycho-Cybernetics, and I'm only about 2 chapters in at the moment, and a great one that I took from that was how you see yourself reflects how others see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it really hit home with me. Do you see yourself as a confident person, a quiet person? Because it gives off in your body language how you speak to people, how you approach the people, and I really, really get that there. So that's before you speak to anybody. People are already judging you. Yeah,
if that person doesn't look confident, they're already judging you. So you're absolutely right. And the interesting thing you mentioned there, which is very, very important, is how you see yourself. It's your perception. How confident you are is a perception of how you see yourself.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with your environment or anything else. It's how you see yourself. So for you doing, a lot of your training with guys, and guys making progress, if they're approaching an exercise that they're going to do, and they're approaching it with, I don't know if I can do this, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this, but I'll try it anyway. The mindset's all wrong from the start. You need to be confident that, I can definitely make progress with this.
And we'll do a quick summary of everything we've spoke about there. So, habits and routines, Biodun. What habit and routine would you first recommend to anyone to get started?
Habit and routines, I would recommend that, again, is just getting into this idea that, every single day you You obviously have a shower, so you clean your body, but how often do you pay attention to the mind? So getting yourself into that right mindset, even from when you wake up, doing some sort of visualization process, some sort of mindfulness process, just to get yourself set up for the day. So you're really programming your day before you even go out there, which is really, really interesting, whether that's going to meetings, whether it's going to trainings. It's just to make that a part of your life as opposed to something you do in addition to everything else you do.
Yeah, love that. Setting goals, like we spoke about, setting small goals, breaking it down, looking at the small things rather than looking at it as a whole and the end goal, which I absolutely loved there. We spoke about comparison to others, we spoke about how to analyse people and also procrastination of themselves, putting themselves down with a lot. We spoke about what motivations were good for people, how to judge your progress, just like we spoke about, making the small little things, influences which can make a big difference to people, like we say, injuries, lifestyle, going on holiday, these things happen. So listen, just to finish up, where can people hear a wee bit more about you and get more information on you?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to my website, which is www.optimindmethod.com, then you'll get a lot of information and resources from that site, and you'll be able to get in touch with me. But one of the things I'd like to just say before we finish off was, which I think you've heard this before, is the story about the little town called Bathgate.
Yeah. I think you've told me about this actually.
Yes, I have. I mean, most people know this, a little town called Bathgate in Scotland, and believe it or not, this little place has a claim to fame. Now, the population at the time that this was written was around about 16,000 people. Obviously, it keeps on expanding now with the surrounding areas, but 16,000 people. Now, over a 10-year period, there's a place called the Gym in Bathgate. And it's a Taekwondo school.
Okay. It's
called the Gym in Bathgate. And this particular school is run by a woman called Master Sutherland. And you can go and check all this out. Has won 60 UK national titles, 21 European titles, 7 world titles, and 3 additional world medals.
Impressive.
And this is for a little town in Bathgate in Scotland, right? Now, believe it or not, in the same 10-year period, the United States, with a population of 314 million, has won 3 world medals.
Right.
So here's the question. How can this place called the Gym in Bathgate, a little town of 16,000 people, wipe the floor in terms of the Taekwondo stakes when you compare it to the USA with 314 million people? So the question is there more raw talent in Bathgate for Taekwondo in Scotland? Is there really? No, I don't think
Probably not, no.
Yeah, absolutely. However, this place, the Gym in Taekwondo School in Bathgate, has something completely unique about it. The first thing it has a culture of excellence. When you go there to train, then you're expected to train like a world champion. From day one, it's expected and it's demanded. That's what they're doing. They're training world champions. That's the culture that they've got. Unless you're fully committed to sticking to a disciplined training schedule, unless you're 100% focused at being your best, then it's simple. You're just shown the door. But, you're not welcome. Thanks very much. Go find yourself another place to waste your time. So the culture and the point of this is we need to ask ourselves, what's our own personal culture? What's our own mindset in anything we attempt to do in life, whether that's our fitness goals, whether it's business goals, whether it's family goals, whether it's health, anything at all. What's your personal culture? What's your thinking? And begin to really make that type of comparison. Will you do whatever it takes to get to the top?
I like that. I really like that, actually. That is a really good way of putting it. The way you approach things and so on, the kind of ethics of it, it's just makes it totally different. That's probably why they are so successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just to give people something to think about,
Yeah. But Biodun, first of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you for coming on the show and giving us your time. I've really taken a lot away from it, and I'm sure a lot of other people can.
Fantastic. Yeah, delighted to be on the show, and thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Foundations of Fitness podcast.